First, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well,
I was looking forward to this, because it's like, having this opportunity for people to witness what we talk daily since we've met.
I look at it this way: we are brothers from two separate generations. I'm old school, and the last, some of the last remaining alive who remembers the lessons and the experiences that our ancestors lived through, and not only didn't read about it, we saw it. I mean, we were, in the homes or in the places where we were, and they brought their troubles home. And it wasn't like bringing it home and taking advantages of us or kids. It was really bringing it home, getting us together, sitting around a table talking, and while they're drinking or eating, and saying, "Now, Junior, remember this. It's going to happen." And they would give you this information.
Right on.
And sure enough, I would say 80% of what they said that would happen, happened. Some not to the degree, some even more so than I ever thought. I've never seen black people as fearful, as a group, as a unit. Forget the economic level. I don't care if they're millionaires or, living well, upper middle class, or if they're in the streets. I've never seen such collective fear.
And it starts with I. The key in AI is the intelligence, right? Your intelligence, right? We tend to at times, and I had to grow through this myself in life, is looking at what we need to do. Because if we don't do anything, that gives me the excuse to say, well, I'm not doing anything. But if I put myself in a situation to hold myself accountable, to say okay, I'm going to do this. You then become the inspiration. You become the enlightenment. You become the one that can empower the we.
Yeah.
In order for we to happen, you have to start with I.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? So that's when things start to change. And when I begin to look at these situations and understand and know my defiance, and like we spoke before, the system is designed not to fail.
Definitely.
So we have to create a new system to counter that system.
Yes.
So we have something solid that can achieve the agenda that we set forth, so that now we making sure this system that we create with this type of algorithm not fail for the purpose of I becoming we.
I agree with you. And I think what the people in the 50s, I'm just talking the 50s now, there were a lot of powerful movements in the 50s. Names like A. Philip Randolph.
Yes.
Martin Luther King Sr. I mean, there were some Malcolm, and Malcolm was young then, he was still, but they were out doing things that were really not undercover, but they were moving in a way that it got by the dominant system. And those were the people who built the historical black college system, North Carolina Mutual. These people were servicing the needs of the maturing minds of young black people. And then they were the ones who fathered the kings. Elijah Muhammad was before Malcolm and Farrakhan.
Oh, right on.
And whether you like what he did or not, but he built a nation
right on
within his own
right
system.
on right
Those
on.
men were the ones who taught me. When I say that group of people.
Right on.
I remember in my hometown, I think I mentioned before, we had a cab company that was black. Why? Because white cabs wouldn't come.
Right.
Checker cab wouldn't come to the black community.
Right.
So some brothers got together and created Broadway Cab Company.
Right on.
About 4 or 5, my father drove from them. And they you could make a living
There you go.
driving.
There you go.
There was no whiskey by the drink. You couldn't go to a bar and sit down and order a bourbon and something. So speakeasies. My grandmother,
Right on.
my aunt, and they would go and sell. It's illegal, but they would pay off.
Right.
I seen the police chief come to my aunt's house and get an envelope. I will never forget it. What we can do is use the technology that was created against us in many cases. To use this quantum physics in a way that brings strength to our spiritual side, and use it to create our own new world.
Right on.
Why revive? Anybody want to revive that system?
Right. No.
It's like that
We got to
song.
evolve that.
We're
evolve our
witnessing-
situations.
We're witnessing the fall of an empire.
We are.
And
I
we
agree.
didn't make it fall.
No.
We held it up.
The chicken come home to roost.
And what can you do? You feel sorry for them? Well, I have friends that I hate to see them go down, but they made a choice.
Man.
Their eye went in that direction.
Man. Will it really be about changing the history, or is it really about changing the ideology of colonialism?
Well, colonialism is just something it's the same demonic lifestyle by another name. I mean, what was it before that? What was it?
Because it was like, there's no color when it's like European beef, right? The Irish or Scottish and, the British, the French.
But look how they got here. They
Right.
were kicked out by the aristocracy.
Man, when I watched the documentary, Exterminate All the Brutes, by brother Raoul Peck.
I'd love to meet him. Incredible documentary.
Yes.
I don't know how he survived making that documentary.
he it was a tough task because the book in itself is huge. And his friend who wrote it, who passed away before the finish of the documentary, he wanted him to take the task, and he was kind of, reluctant to do.
Rightly so, yeah.
However, he took it on, and he, as you've seen, broke it up into 4 parts, and it's powerful because it speaks about the origin back in 400, where the idea was, we have to find more resource and do beyond our internal beef to survive. And how do we do this? Well, we need to form a union and go after, resource and territory to expand, because, on the map, they lie to us. They make it seem like Asia, Europe is the same equivalent as the continent of Africa, and it's not, and so they know the truth, and they, going to discover to really make something happen. And because you think about the ships, there's the Portuguese ships, there's the French, the British, you got all these, the German, different ships, and going after resources and preaching something to make, upon discovery, to make any other human race of different shade feel inferior.
I got to add there because
add to it.
What we overlook, and this is why we have to become more defiant and more steadfast in letting people know who we are.
Right on.
From our history to our culture, and defiantly say, this is who I am. Who you think I am, or who you tried to create me to be, ain't who I am.
Right on.
Now, because you're weak, you're going to see the real who I am.
Right on.
I'm not dancing to that ball anymore.
Right on.
I'm not trying to make you feel at ease in my presence.
Comfortable.
I don't care if you're comfortable or not.
I've been to.
Can we do business?
Right.
If you can't do business, I'll see you later.
Right on.
And we're going in separate directions because I don't want to go in your direction.
In that order.
But you got to realize where it came from. When we talk about colonialism, the longest colonialized system in the history of the world were the Moors. They colonialized Europe for 800 years. And you got to remember, when I say colonialized, they were as brutal, they were as imposing, they were as, you had to follow their rule. The Moors. Who's going to rise up for the new world, the new thing? Who's going to be part of that? It's going to be younger, of course, but it ain't going to be the ones who are afraid. It's going to be the ones who will not. They won't be in the street burning things down. They will not. They will not, and they have the right to. They'll be the ones on the system, maneuvering and creating a space for themselves where they can get together and create the next thing.
Right on.
If they don't do that, then they're going to destroy it. They'll be the instrument of mad people who will then be flying these drones. You don't even need a bomber anymore.
You don't really need troops on the floor.
You don't need it. And who's going to operate those? It ain't going to be the old guy. It's going to be your
It's
young
gonna be
kid.
Ender's Game. Period.